Hello everybody and welcome back to Instagram and to YouTube. So for Instagram viewers, I'm filming this in this way, so it's better for YouTube that way, and I can also put some little bits and bobs above Instagram and that. Whew, it's been a hot one today, so I need a nice cool beer, but not too cool. This wants to be about 6 to 8 degrees. So I have got two identical glasses. These glasses have been washed exactly the same by hand. They've been washed exactly the same to do this little experiment. Now you probably tell I've got my Thornbridge t-shirt on again, the 20 years Thornbridge. I've also got my collaborators, or not collaborator, contributor badge for Ale and Radio on. And what I have here, and I'm really excited about this, so Thornbridge, when they took control of the Union set, the Burton Union set, the very first beer that they brewed on that was Jaipur. Now the reason being, I believe, is that it's their most recognised beer to them. That's sort of like, what beer we're going to brew on the Union set to sort of see how it comes out. They know Jaipur inside and out. So that was the first beer that they actually brewed on the Union set, but it wasn't the first one to be released, and it never got released and we never got to try it. But now they've brewed it on the Union set, and here it is, Jaipur on the Union. Now I've actually had this, I've had one the other night, I couldn't resist it, but I've not had it against the normal bottle of a Jaipur. So on the website, these are both exactly the same price. They are brewed in the same way. They've got the same hops, the same wheat, barley, all the same ingredients. The only difference is one is brewed on the Union and one is brewed in the normal way. So the way that they brew it on the Union is they sort of brew it in the normal way, get it going. If you watch my other video, once the I imagine they do this because this is how they do the beers on the Union, I'm told. Once the yeast is going, after sort of like, you know, a 12 to 24 hours or whatever, once it starts doing its thing, they pump it down onto the Union, goes into the Union in that top sort of like feeder trough, feeds controlled flow into the barrels, and then as the fermentation takes place, natural CO2 pushes the yeast and some of the wort up into the whole, like the trough where the yeast trough, and then because it's on the slant, the yeast sort of stays there and the wort travels back into the feeder tank and goes back down, and that's the continuation of the fermentation. It just produces like what I believe to be a softer beer. So I really wanted to sort of compare the two. So I've took these out the fridge long enough for them to be around about that 6 to 8 degrees. So I'm going to pour them out. I'm going to first of all pour the normal Jaipur out into the glass, and I'm going to try my very best to pour them in exactly the same way, so we get the same pour, so we can see how the head develops and things like that. So I obviously want to pour it to get a little bit of a head. So that's developed quite well, looking beautiful, straw coloured as always in the glass. So that is the Jaipur. Oh, that's the Jaipur on the Union. Oh, they look the blooming same. There's the first mistake. So there you go. So I was pouring it and it's overactivated its sort of self, and that's what I expected to sort of get. I didn't expect to get that so much, even though the normal one is going to probably have a different level of carbonation. So that is the one on the Union. So actually thinking about it, when you actually think about it, this might be a little bit more aggressive on the pour. That being a bit softer might be a little less. This might be a little bit more aggressive. So pouring this one, it's looking the same way. It's looking like I'm going to have to just activate it a little bit to get it. There we go. Don't go over. Looking the same pour really, which was quite, I didn't expect that, in all fairness. So that is the beer, looking absolutely fine. So when the beer has been brewed on the Union, by the time it's done its circulation around, it naturally, the Union is a fermentation sort of like system. It naturally separates the yeast. The yeast forms a layer that protects the wort underneath the yeast. So the oxygen is being, the yeast is being aerated, and oxygen's getting into it, which does all sorts of wonderful things to the yeast. But the beer is sort of like the wort is protected underneath. By the end of the process, you've pretty much got bright beer. Then they take it out into a tank, send it to the back to the brewery, put some finings in it. That's how it gets super clear. Just to get rid of that like last little bit of the finings, I think, just make the yeast settle to the bottom. And so these are bottle conditioned, so there will be some both bottle conditioned, they say, so there will be some yeasty stuff in there, which I like to get in. So right, so we've pulled the two. I better keep the bottles there like that. So the one on the left, which is your normal Jaipur, so to speak, is still sort of like twinkling around with that head. The one on the right, which is on the Union, the head's dissipated a little bit. However, it almost looks a little bit more, say, hand pulled. It's not creamy. It's like, the head is. This looks a little bit more. I always sort of say, when you can almost see liveliness in the beer, as in the yeast, like it's still sort of like almost like it's still brewing a little bit in there. So I'm gonna now do exactly the same with the two. I'm gonna put the rest of the beer into the left glass here, which is just gone in, and I'm gonna tip the bottle right upside down. So that's the normal one there. Beautiful. I can smell it. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the one on the Union. Lovely, rising up, beautiful. So, two exactly the same beers, brewed in the same way. One fermented on the Union system, one fermented in the normal way. Now I can tell straight away now I've finished doing that. They look exactly the same. The head's pretty much the same size, but the one on the Union does look a different head, a slightly different head. I'd almost say, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. If I pulled these out and gave them to somebody, they wouldn't go, oh, that's a bit different. But because I know, I can say that this head looks a little tiny bit tighter than what that does. Right, so aromas. Now I get different flavours from this. I get, from the Jaipur, I get a lot of grapefruit. I do get like a pininess. Now the Jaipur has a EBU or an IBU, whatever you want to call it, European Bittering Units, or oh my god, International Bittering Units. I threw myself with an E there. Of I think about 55, so it's got a good old smack of IBUs in there. So I think that on the Union, it might soften that bitterness a little bit. So this is just as a beer reviewer, a beer chatter, but I'm sure if I spoke to Richard, who's done this, and I'm hoping to go over to him, and he's brewed Jaipur on his Union set, to try his against this, which will be awesome. Right, so I would actually say there's less aroma on the Union set, and I think that's because the head's a little tighter. Right, so I'm going to have a good swig. I'm thirsty. I'm looking forward to this. Beautiful beer from Thornbridge, Jaipur, 20 years of Jaipur. Fantastic. There is a video on Thornbridge's Instagram page where they're talking about it and saying about, a beer that's just held its own for 20 years and it's not changed, and it's 5.9% still, and it's still these high IBUs, and it's just still a winner. And it's, for me, it's a great sort of like IPA. Cheers, everybody. Wow, fantastic. Oh, what a beer. And yeah, I mean, if I want to talk about it now, I'm thinking about it, the pininess, there is the pininess there. The pininess is something that I know is there, especially in West Coast and things. But I always almost forget to say about it, because there's other things that are in there. Like I get that grapefruity, I get that real grapefruity hit with the bitterness. Yeah, very light, lovely punch of bitterness there, which is really great in this beer. It's really light, goes down, you can feel it well, lovely. sort of citrusy, slight lemony, that it actually says it gives lemon. It says about lemongrass as well. I mean, there isn't like an earthiness about it, like a dryness. I just look upon it as a dryness, but for me, I just get that hit of pine, which I don't really talk about, but I know I get it. And then that grapefruity bite at the back. Lovely. So, taste buds are well into that. Boom. That is amazing. Right, this. Yeah, the head, although, like I say, it's all settled down, it still looks a bit more compact. Cheers on the Union. Almost, there is different flavours coming out of that. Now, with this beer, you could give this beer to 10 people. And I do not care what it says on the back of that. I do not care if it says, tastes like this, tastes like that, whatever. It does say, huge amount of American hops for a fantastic experience of grapefruit, which I always get grapefruit. If there's bits of grapefruit is something I pick out, like Jimbo picks out mango, and I can't pick out mango unless I have a mango beer, which incidentally I did the Smash from Thornbridge. Fantastic. Well balanced. Yeah, it says grapefruit, lemon, tropical fruits with exciting bitterness. So whatever it says, I've read it about the lemon, and you can get the lemon in there, but it is like just a normal, lovely, typical IPA with that punchiness, that grapefruitness, that real bitter hit, the dryness that comes, quaffable, lovely. But what this is giving me, this actually, because I've read and I've talked about lemon, I can taste more of the lemon in this than I can in that. The carbonation, without a doubt, is softer in that. Yeah, so the bitterness is really... These experiments are great. I think the bitterness is slightly softened in this, in the one on the Union, whereas the one in the bottle is a little bit more there. I mean, it's still there, don't get me wrong, you know, you ain't missing out on the bitterness at all, but I think there's an element of softness that's been created from the Union set that I did think the other day, when I had it the other day off the Union, I wasn't comparing it obviously because I wanted to wait to this moment, but I just thought to myself, that definitely feels like a little bit softer. I can tell you one thing, having two of these together and drinking them together and getting through them quite quickly, it's pretty awesome. Really piney, lovely grapefruity. This one feels a little bit more, I'm going to say fizzy. It ain't. This is a beautifully carbonated beer, but when I'm just trying to describe the carbonation, this is just a little bit more tingly tangly, wishy 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 boom around your mouth, whereas this is definitely the carbonation is definitely softer. It's weird because the way Thornbridge brew their beer, I would say this is naturally carbonated as well, the same as this is, but just the way it's brewed normally and the way the Union set works, I think the carbonation is just softer. It's just a little bit more softer. Anyway, both beers taste fantastic. They're absolutely mint. They're looking the same. They're sort of the head retention. I mean, I've cleaned the glasses, but I'm not getting a lot of lacing on there, but the head is staying there. The glasses are clean. There was no nucleation points. The heads are just staying exactly the same. Same beer. One bottle condition from a normal brewing process. Absolutely amazing. The The one from the Union set, I can definitely get a little bit more of the lemon. There is a little bit more of the lemon coming through. Both beers fantastic. Carbonation a little bit softer in that. Thank you so much, Thornbridge Brewery, for brewing this on the Union system for us. Cheers.